What's up, you guys? My name is Zach, and I just want to talk a little bit today about how my wife and I managed to use the Dave Ramsey Baby Steps plan to get out of debt, just take control of our income and stuff, and do this all while we're being small business owners and self-employed, and really just having a variable income that, we're not exactly positive what it'll be each month. Now, the majority of this took place in the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, and due to the nature of the baby steps, it's still ongoing, but I think a lot of people, when they think about the baby steps, they mostly are thinking about the debt snowball, and so that's what I mean when I say the majority of it took place during that time frame, because that was when we were in baby step 2, which is the phase where you get out of debt. So the biggest problem we were coming into, a huge part of the baby steps plan, and especially getting out of debt, is having a budget called an every dollar budget. And that also happens to be the name of Dave Ramsey's official budgeting app. But really the concept behind it is mainly that you use every dollar and you plan ahead of time where every dollar is going to go. And so for wedding photographers or anybody else that owns their own small business, or is really just self-employed at all, from month to month, you might make drastically different income. One month you might make $3,000, the next month you can make $8,000. So what are you going to do? What are you going to budget off of, especially while you're trying to get out of debt and trying to really make your money start working for you? So that's kind of what we were looking at, is some months we make lower, some months we make more. Around the time, each month we were making between like 35 to 4, all the way up to, maybe sometimes 5 or 6,000 if it was a really good month. And this is all gross before taxes, stuff like that. Essentially what we had to do is say, hey, if we're not sure what we're gonna make each month, it's really hard to project when people are paying me off months in advance. Some people are waiting until 2 weeks before their wedding day, to go ahead and give me their final multiple $1,000 balance. So I can't exactly project out what I'm going to make, because people just pay whenever they want, and I'm cool with that. It's very fun. It's very exciting. So what we decided to do, and what we've since heard Dave tell people what to do, is we took our low expectation income and we set that as the number we were going to budget off of. We took the lowest amount of money we had made in the past 15 months and budgeted off that with the mindset of, if we can make it and just assume we're going to survive off of the lowest amount we have made in a long while, then we should be all good, So I looked back across the past 15 months, and the lowest amount of money that I had made in 1 month was $2,800 gross. So I said, epic. If we can budget our whole lives based off that $2,800 number, then theoretically, if it gets as bad as it has gotten in a long time, again, we'll be good. In most months, we're going to make more or much more than that, and so we should be super good to go. So I looked at the past 15 months, and I found that the lowest amount of money we had made in 1 month was $2,800 gross, and so we decided to budget off that with the mindset that if we could survive off that low $2,800 number, and obviously that's not no money. I don't mean it's like a low, terrible income. I just mean compared to, what we could make in other months. If we could budget off that $2,800, then we'd be all good to go. And in the worst, rainiest month, we would be good to go. And in most better months, we would be, have money to spare, which was super epic. So anyway, we budgeted off of $2,800. So let's hop over to every dollar and look at what that looked like in that time. So I have my Every Dollar app pulled up here, and I'm looking back at February 2019. Currently, when I'm filming this, it's April of 2020, and the reason I picked February of 2019 is because that was a pretty average month. There's not really any major holidays except for, I guess, Valentine's Day, and this was just kind of like an average month while we were getting out of debt. So as you can see, I budgeted off of that $2,800 number, and again, that was just me kind of assuming like our low income, just to make sure like everything was covered. As far as giving, $280 is 10% of $2,800. So we're Christians and we tithe. Emergency fund, we planned 0 for, because we'd already done this at this time. In every dollar, you can make little funds, and essentially, I didn't want to make a whole ton of different savings accounts in my bank account because that's annoying, but I did think it would be important to split up some cost, so to speak, of various holidays and stuff across a couple months. With that, I was able to, across a couple months, put in like $30, $40, $50, however much. And it just kind of kept track of it for me. And the reason I did this as opposed to just ignoring it is because I wanted it to show up as an expense monthly so that at the end of the month, our bank account was that much higher. Had I just done it in my brain and, tried to set that aside, I may have still spent that money elsewhere and not been aware of it. But me putting Valentine's Day in here forced me to have to look at that money coming out and forced me to have to lower all the other. So anyway, okay, so then comes to housing and stuff. Our rent and utilities and stuff averaged out to about $963. So that was actually rent, not gas, but water and trash, having dogs and stuff. So obviously, we could anticipate that. We put that there. Electricity, 110. With that, I will say, in the same way that we used our low number to pick how much we were going to budget off of, I'd say use a high number for utilities like electricity, gas, water, stuff like that, because you would rather be pleasantly surprised by extra money in your bank account than disappointed by, oh man, why is our bank account lower than we expected? This sucks. So electricity, on average, it would wind up being around 70 or 80, but in the summer months it would get up to about 110, maybe even sometimes 120, but on general, not higher than 110. So I wanted to go ahead and put that number in there so that, just kind of secretly save some extra money. Gas, same thing. Use a high number. This is gas for cars and not gas for utilities. But I would say, go ahead and use that. So every time we filled up, I just marked, whose car it was. Maintenance, essentially that was what the baby step 1 was for. Groceries, 200. We are college age people. We're both 21 right now, and we got married when we were 19. So we, the whole first 2 years of being married, and probably still coming up, we just ate like college kids. We had plenty of ramen, lots of pizzas from Walmart or whatever, which, sidebar, Walmart makes a mean generic DiGiorno pizza that is like $2.78, and if you do it right, that's 3, maybe 4 meals, which works out to like 80 cents a meal. That's really good in my book. So anyway, we would just put Target, stuff like that. Restaurants, $40. Dave wants you to not go to a restaurant when you're getting out of debt. We didn't have so much debt that we felt like this would really add up, because we were anticipating it taking maybe 6-7 months. So if we had taken, our budget was $40 each month. Had we taken 40 out of our budget times 6 months, that's $240. Is that right? Yeah, that's $240. We only had like $6,000 or $7,000 in debt. So, $240 in the scheme of things maybe would have gotten us out of debt a day faster. But for our mental well-being, we decided to give ourselves $40. And this is just mainly for, this isn't us going out to eat. This isn't us going to, some nice restaurant or whatever. This is, we may as well have called it fast food, or just an excuse to like, hey, we're out and we need some sort of food. You can see pub subs around there, Starbucks, Crystals, stuff like that. And we did go over that month. There was some reason, that McDonald's seems to be about it. Gosh darn it. Okay, so our next kind of phase is we had personal money. And the reason we did that is because the same thing. There was $100 between the two of us across 6 months, $600. Wouldn't have drastically changed our story. Maybe would have sped us up by 1 month. But there was, had it taken us 5 months instead of 6 months, not going to change us forever, but across all those 6 or 5 months, we got to have not a whole lot, but $50 worth of, this thing is just for me, and I feel really good about it. Makes me happy, and kind of makes this journey where we are not spending a whole lot a little more manageable. Phone, pay Sprint every month, subscriptions, various things like Netflix, Hulu, whatever. Although I get Hulu now from Sprint for free, which is cool. Date night, $40. So that essentially kind of adds into our restaurant budget. So we would alternate a slightly nicer date night and a cheaper, like stay-at-home kind of date night. So on the nicer one, maybe we go out to eat somewhere, maybe we go do some fun activity or see a movie or whatever. And on the next one, we'll kind of stay in, cook at home, watch a movie, cuddle up, do something fun together at home. I don't know. So that was kind of how we made it work. And probably a lot of people are watching this and thinking, $40 for date night? Like, you guys must be stupid. What a terrible date. We spend $100 per date night. And to that, I just have to say, that's cool, but we're just really focused on our goal, like obviously we could have tightened up a little bit, but I kind of already explained why we hadn't done that as much as possible. But we wanted to get out of debt. And we want to start building wealth, and we're young, and we can do that. And I honestly think that even if you're not young, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you're trying to get out of debt and stuff, put $40 for your date night budget. You don't even have to do zero. Dave might say only free date nights, because you can come up with stuff. But try putting 40, try to appreciate smaller things and just time together, instead of like, oh, we went to go do something nice, or went to like a nice dinner. Go for a walk, make some food at home, watch a Netflix movie and cuddle up. Wi-Fi, can't change that. Hair cosmetics, totally technically unnecessary, but Madison needs to get her hair did, and that is not an argument I'm about to fight or lose. Pet care, dog food, whatever, you get it. And then miscellaneous. Miscellaneous was essentially like Kevin's number 11 on The Office. What he would just use to kind of balance things. It's a really funny number, 105.66. The only reason for that is after, we had all these other categories that we were kind of used to and that would be there frequently, the exact same month after month after month. Sometimes one thing would change. Like this month, it was Valentine's Day. So we took $100 off, and then essentially the miscellaneous number is how much was left to make it a every dollar budget. So we would just kind of make it that, and then that's where we would put random things like elderberry gummies. I was sick and somebody told me to try them. They tasted pretty good, but whatever. Random other stuff. Some people would put home goods into products, well, not home goods, but like medicine and stuff with groceries. Madison kept trying to tell us to do that. That doesn't make sense to me, because you don't eat medicine. You don't eat, Swiffer pads or whatever. But I also didn't want to have a whole budget for, stuff like that, because it's not every single month that we need to buy Advil. It's not every single month we need to buy Swiffer pads. So I just kind of wanted to have a miscellaneous category. And so that was really helpful, and also kind of balanced our spreadsheet, so to say. Saint credit card, we only planned 20, and the reason for that is that was the minimum payment at that time. With the medical, you can see we planned 150. That was just the minimum payment, again, just like Saint's credit card, and I'll talk about both those line items in just a sec. And also, what we plan to do, because $150 and $20 towards a debt, not a whole lot, not going to get you out of debt very fast. So yes, so that was how we set up our budget to work off our low income number of $2,800. One last thing that I want to talk about before I kind of wrap up is that when you're first starting out with your budget and the baby steps and everything, you're going to be wrong. That's just the truth of it. I've told my mom and everybody else that I've kind of talked about the baby steps to, is your first couple months, you're just gonna not know, So our first 2 months of the baby steps, we just had to do our best guesstimation. Before we even started, our personal money was $125 each a month. And that could have maybe worked out had we had some of the rest of our spending under control, but things that were, for the house or whatever, like a bookcase or, bookshelves or something like that, it was kind of just on a do we have the money for it basis, which is not the smartest way to do things, because, a couple times in a row you feel good, and then it's the end of the month, and then suddenly you're like, oh crap, rent's coming up. That's almost $1,000 in a single day, and we have been buying some random stuff. And then, the beginning of the month starts and you feel poor again. Boo. So for the first 2 months, I'd say just do your best guess. At first I put $100 for gas, and I wound up finding out it had to be $200. That's not one of those line items you can just change. You can't necessarily change your habits to save $100 in gas if you need to do that much driving. So, month 2, raise gas first and foremost to $200. You can't necessarily do less than that. There's not a whole lot you can change. So everything else needs to kind of change and work around it. Like when you're dragging an image into Microsoft Word and all the text just goes kind of all squirrely all around it. It's like that. Electricity, you'll start to get an average on. You can look back through your bank statements and see about how much it was, average it out, stuff like that. Certain things you can look back through. Groceries, for us, we lived literally 2 buildings over from Target. So we went every day or every other day. It would have been way too hard to go through our grocery, expenses in our bank statements and just kind of figure out an average there. So what I did was I thought the most important thing is to just start. I think if you are looking at your budget and trying to be conscious of what you're spending, that you're going to make so many smarter moves and, make so many better decisions than someone who's not at all. And even way better decisions than you not trying at all. When we weren't trying at all, we were constantly, our bank statement, our bank account was going down each month because we just weren't in control. There were some months we out-earned our stupidity and our ignorance, and there was other months where we really didn't, and it felt really bad to end the month with less money than we started. That's not what you want to be doing. So if you feel like that, I would say definitely just start. Try to get involved in the Dave Ramsey plan. He has lots of good resources, and really just start assessing your budget. Even if you're not ready to jump in the whole 7-step baby step plan, I'd say at least, consider your budget and what you can do for that. So the final thing is I want to share a couple stories from the baby steps plan of why it was super dope for us. So for example, the very first month we started was November 2018. We were able to save up a $1,000 emergency fund that month, which is super cool to be able to knock that out in 1 month. We were super thankful. And that exact same month, I remember within a day or two of us saying yeah, we got it, way to go. Our dog Saint got bit by a cat, and his leg got infected, and it was causing him to walk funny, and so we had to take him to the vet, and it wound up costing about $700 for all the medicine and exams and stuff he needed. He got his leg x-rayed. $700. Before we were conscious about budgeting and saving and trying to have that goal of having an emergency fund, I did the math, and we would not have had that money, or at the very least, that was at the end of the month. So in 6 days, we would have had rent. And, maybe we would have missed rent. We wouldn't have had the money. It would have been terrible. But the very same month that we started saving and being, just being intentional with our money and our income, we had the money to pay for an issue. And Dave Ramsey says that the emergency fund takes a emergency and turns it into an inconvenience. So to kind of wrap everything up, if you're on baby step 1 through 3, have a variable income, own your own business, or are self-employed, then start with your low income number and try to budget off that. And this is as your household. So if you're married, use your collective low monthly income to budget everything off of. And if you're, find yourself in baby step 4 through 7, then maybe use the average and have a sinking fund, which is where you just keep your bank account balance a little higher to kind of float you through some of those lower months. It's not necessarily an emergency because you expect to have lower months, but we'll just kind of carry you through. If this seems like a lot to you, then just go ahead and, start somewhere. Download the Every Dollar app. It's not going to take you more than about 15 minutes to get started and get your first budget done. Honestly, it's very, very fast, and just give yourself grace. The first 2 months, I promise you're going to look at the end of it, and after you've actually tried and assessed and, put in your expenses and stuff, you're going to find that you were wrong. That's just how it is. So, expect that. Give yourself grace for being wrong, and at the end of it, just kind of refine, and then you'll know what your budget is in the end of those 2 months, and what it needs to be. But all along the way, you'll have been more conscious of your money and your spending and stuff, and still be making great progress. The last thing is just keep your eye on the prize. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to get out of debt? Why do you want to build wealth? Is it so that you can give more to other people? Is it so that you can, stop being a slave to credit card companies and, student loans or whatever, and you want to actually be able to start using more of your income for you? What is it? You got to decide that for yourself, and then just kind of keep your eye on that prize. And there are tough days, there are tough weeks where you're like, this is stupid. I hate that we're not spending hardly anything on anything fun. We're not going to these places or being like whoever, doing whatever. But you just got to stay focused on the thing that you are trying to do and, your long-term goal. Most people, they call Dave Ramsey, and worst case, they're out of debt in 2 to 3 years. That's a good chunk of time, but across the span of your life, I bet if it took you 2 or 3 years to get out of debt, that 5 years from now, you'd be stoked that you spent that time and think that it was really worth it. So that's kind of all I have to say. Let me know if you have any questions about, being a small business owner, self-employed, having a variable income, and trying to do the Dave Ramsey baby steps, kind of how it worked along the way. If you have any stalling points with your budget, or if you even just want to keep talking about, this discussion, maybe you have some tips of how you were able to get out of debt or at least take control of your finance while making a variable income. Maybe you're another wedding photographer and you want to talk about that. Let's talk about it. But Hope you have a great day, and thanks so much for watching. Swag.